Welcome to Ottawa Fury FC Soccer here. A beautiful home opener it is at TD Place, where North Carolina FC comes and faces Ottawa Fury FC right here at TD Place. Gordon Smith alongside myself, Tyler McDonald. Thank you so much for joining us here for the 2018 season. And Gord, it's a difficult start for Ottawa Fury FC as it has been in the past, but they're looking to rebound here at home.
They really have to. It's a massive game this afternoon. You cannot afford to fall as far behind as you are in the standings with the teams at the top of the table. So a huge 3 points on offer here this afternoon.
Player to watch for North Carolina FC has to be number 10, Kyle Becker, the Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian international, lots of international experience, certainly lots of MLS experience. Invaluable taking set plays in and around the 18-yard box for Carolina here this afternoon.
For Ottawa Fury FC, the captain for today, Colin Falvey, coming back in his first game at home here in Ottawa Fury FC shirt in a couple of years.
Yeah, you know, he's a wonderful lad, he's a wonderful player, and he's a wonderful calming influence on this back line. And the first two games certainly didn't show that. Third game against Pittsburgh looked a little bit better. He's got to do a lot better here this afternoon from a defensive standpoint to keep a shutout if they can.
We'll take as well just to talk about that. That's the slow start for Ottawa Fury FC. I know there are no points so far this season. How important is it to get 3 points at home here in home crowd?
Well, as we said, you know, like if you go 4 or lose the first 4 games, you're now at least 12 points behind the teams at the top of the table. And that just can't happen. The slow start they've had in the first 4 years of their existence, they've only had one win in each of those 5 games, Tyler, and that needs to change, and it needs to change now. You've got a massive game coming up today, and it's even bigger next weekend when FC Cincinnati comes to town as well.
Should be a fun one, but we'll focus on today's game. Gordon Smith will be alongside Graham Ivory on the call for today's game. Tune in after the break and watch kickoff. You're watching Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Hey, Predator. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
Welcome back to Ottawa Fury FC Soccer. Graham Ivory, Gordon Smith along with you as the home calendar for the 2018 USL season set to get underway this afternoon against North Carolina FC. Gord, Ottawa looking for that first and critical 3 points of the season as we have a look at the starting 11 for this afternoon's match, brought to you by Gabriel Pizza, Ottawa's bigger, better pizza, 310-7777. And for Ottawa Fury FC, Gord, we'll start with North Carolina FC. Alex Tambakis, who started every game for North Carolina so far this season, starts in goal. 4-4-2 you see on the lineup. They typically kind of play in that 4-5-1, so watch for Rios to kind of drop back into that midfield. The captain, Austin Deleuze, needs 22 minutes to play 10,000 minutes with North Carolina FC. And of course, you and Tyler profiled Kyle Becker, the lone Canadian, in the starting lineup for North Carolina. As we have a look at the starting 11 for Ottawa Fury FC, it's been 4-3-3 the entire way for Ottawa so far this season. Maxime Crépeau, who got his first start last week in that 1-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, gets the start in goal. Colin Falvey, who will wear the captain's armband in that back four. 4-3-3 you see across there. Adonijah Reed gets his first start of the season with Tony Taylor and Michael Salazar up top with him, Gord. As you were talking about, it's a big game for Ottawa Fury FC, and Nikola Popovic making his home debut and really looking to find that touch with this team that we've seen him already have in the USL at Swope Park Rangers.
I think the first 15 minutes this afternoon, Graham, is absolutely crucial. Don't concede a goal, and if you're able to snatch a goal on a counter possibly, that's important. If you're able to get this crowd behind you as much as they can be, that is going to be a huge difference here this afternoon. That first 15 minutes will be the critical part of the game. And
Nikola Popovic going up against a very experienced USL coach in Colin Clark, his 7th season with North Carolina FC. We've known him back from the NASL days of Ottawa Fury FC, but this is certainly, be an interesting coaching matchup to see how these two play off one another.
It really will, and obviously both coaches have had success at different levels over the course of their career. Certainly Colin Clark from a very terrific playing career in England in different locations, but from a coaching standpoint, when you get into a situation where both teams started off this season with 3 losses on the bounce, Graham, you've got to bounce back. And what's happened with Carolina, they've since picked up a win against Charlotte, who defeated the Ottawa Fury in their opener here in 2018, and then they picked up a tie midweek against Toronto FC. So all to play for here this afternoon. It is a glorious afternoon in the nation's capital here, Graham. Looking forward to a fantastic match here today.
Railhawks have the kickoff, but Colin Falvey intercepts for Ottawa. Portilla can't handle it. Now Kevin Oliveira, foul is called, so Oliveira will give way to Colin Falvey, who wears the captain's armband, with Carl Howarth, who is the club captain, on the bench. The available subs for Ottawa Fury FC this afternoon: 6 of the 7 subs are Canadian on the Ottawa bench. Backup goalkeeper Callum Irving, Thomas Mayer-Giguère and Kyle Porter on defense. Midfielder Jamar Dixon, and forward Steven DeSantos, Carl Howarth and Gabriel Balbinati.
And I think for a Canadian team, Graham, that is absolutely fantastic that they're giving Canadian players who have plied their trade elsewhere over the course of their career an opportunity to come, in some cases, to come back home and play, where they grew up, where they started. Perfect example, obviously, is Jamar Dixon. That's exactly what he's all about. He played locally, he went away, he's come back to play now professionally in his own backyard, and that's fantastic for these lads that are doing that.
Well, 3 local players in the Ottawa Fury FC squad. Of course, Eddie Edward, who's at right back today. Right, Jamar Dixon's on the bench, and Maxime Tissot, who is still out with that quad injury. The other local, the Gatineau native. So 16 Canadians in the entire Fury FC roster. You've got 4 in the starting lineup, in addition to Eddie Edward, and you have Adonijah Reed, Maxime Crépeau.
And Crépeau obviously
Chris Manila also in that back line.
Crépeau obviously getting the start again here, Graham. I think in the first couple of games he wasn't playing, he was on the bench, and not necessarily anything against the goalie that started there. It was just not the best of efforts all round by the Fury in those first 2 games, but he's come in the 3rd game. 85th minute goal they conceded last week, a little bit disappointing. I think a lot of us were thinking if they could at least hold on and get that 1 point to get off the can, so to speak, at the start of the season, but it went away from them. This afternoon becomes even more important, Graham, that they are picking up points somewhere along the line as these early games go through the season.
Fury FC come into today's match 1 goal for, 10 goals against, and certainly a much better defensive form from the club in that 1-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. But one of the interesting things to look at, Gord, is you look at how this team has performed in the first half this season. No goals for, 1 goal against, but it's that second half, 1 goal for, 9 against, with 6 of those 9 coming in the final 15 minutes of the match.
Yeah, you should just ask the referee to keep playing the 90 minutes straight and don't bother having a stoppage at halftime.
Opportunity now. Adonijah Reed plays it in for Tony Taylor. First touch a bit too heavy, gets away from him, and that'll be cleared into touch.
Well, just looking at the way Carolina's setting up here, Graham, I think there is going to be an opportunity if the Fury are able to get wide balls here this afternoon, get Eddie Edward down that right-hand side. Certainly, if you're able to stretch that midfield for a Carolina, it will possibly open up spots in central midfield for the 3 Fury players. Bruno especially, possibly getting forward into the attacking third.
Hard foul there on Michael Salazar will win Fury FC a free kick. And a good opportunity here for Ottawa to try and get something going on a set piece here. And Kevin Oliveira and Gerardo Bruna both moving over to settle behind this one. And you'll see Ottawa Fury FC in their sharp new home kit. The red and black stripe colors. 5 stripes signifying the 5th season of the franchise.
Well, Carolina setting up 3s in a zonal area right on the 6-yard box with the 3 of them, but everyone else seems to be picking up man-to-man. 2 at the edge of the 18-yard box, Graham. So 5 zone marking. The rest of them are picking up man-to-man if they can.
Oliveira to deliver for Ottawa Fury FC. Sends it in at the near post and catches the outside of the goal post. And it goes out for a goal kick as Kevin Oliveira almost caught Alex Tambakis napping, as he was expecting that cross and almost whipped it in at the near side.
Tambakis was definitely hedging his bets towards the middle where that ball was expected to come in, and obviously the lads saw that there was an opening just over and above the 2 players, and it was nice to get up and over the wall just on the outside of the post. Unfortunately for the Fury, it's still 0-0.
Let's have a look at our 3 keys to an Ottawa victory here this afternoon. Key number 1, we stand together. It might sound cheesy, but every voice counts, and that's kind of the motto for Ottawa Fury FC. We stand together, and after that 0-3 start to the season, it'll be great to have that home crowd. Close to 6,000 expected here this afternoon for the home opener. Key number 2, patience and composure. Nikola Popovic's system requires that patience and composure when in possession as the team builds from the back going forward. And key number 3, create, create, create. Ottawa Fury FC really needs to create more opportunities. They've only had 4 shots on goal so far this season, 16 shots total. So they certainly need to increase that number. But now, for the moment, they have to work on the defensive side of the ball. As North Carolina with a free kick here. Kyle Becker, the Canadian, settling in behind this one. Delivers that one right into the wall. And that will bounce out. Nigel Reid first there for Ottawa. And he let it go, and it goes out now for a North Carolina throw. Quickly won back. Eddie Edwards sends it back into the midfield. Brought down nicely by Tony Taylor. Outlets to Nigel Reid. Tries to come back inside for Taylor. But now North Carolina take over just inside their own half. Footy Danso. DJ Taylor. Right back to Michael Harrington. The veteran kind of center back duo of Harrington and Footy Danso. Danso the Gambian, 34 years of age. Harrington 32. The oldest 2 players in the squad for North Carolina FC.
Well, that battle up front with Rios and Colin Falvey is going to be critical here this afternoon, because if Rios is able to get a few yards away from him, and certainly Falvey's a wonderful tackler, a wonderful reader of the game, and we had a chance to talk to him before the game, Graham, and he says, and it's quite interesting, he says as he's gotten older, he's understanding the game a lot more, he's able to read the game a lot more, and if he knew now what he didn't know then, he possibly could have gone to a one heck of a career as opposed to the great career that he's had so far. Colin Falvey, so wonderful player. A good battle here between Rios and Falvey this afternoon expected. You talked earlier on, Graham, sorry. You talked earlier about the 3 keys and how important possession is to this system that's been implemented by Coach Popovic, and it certainly is. But the sort of 3 major parts you've got to make sure happens. You've got to maintain possession of the ball, obviously number 1. But key to that as well is support on the ball has to be outstanding as well. You have to make sure that every time a player has a ball, like we have right now, he's got 3 or 4 options, whether it's to go forward, sideways, or even at sometimes, like we just did with the goalkeeper, to go back. So possession of the ball is great, support of the ball, but above all else, if you're going to win games, Graham, you've got to have penetration. You've got to get in behind this back 4 of Carolina. They've conceded 6 goals in their 5 games they've played so far this season, which isn't that bad, just a little bit more than a goal a game, but the Fury have to try and get more chances. You mentioned it, 4 shots on target in their first 3 games, 270 minutes, that's just not good enough.
Yeah, when you look at those numbers, 4 shots on target, 16 shots total, 15 shots on goal against, 38 shots conceded against. So the numbers certainly favoring the opposition. And in fairness, those kind of statistics were more inflated from those first 2 defeats, with a lot of those opportunities coming in that second half, both against Charlotte and Tampa Bay to open the season.
And as we talked earlier on about the slow start to the season, historically, you know, you live in Canada, we play in Canada. You have situations where you just cannot have home games when a season starts off in early to mid-March. Early to mid-April. You've got to make sure that you've got as good a conditions, not only for the supporters and the fans that are coming to pay their money, but for the players as well, for their safety. Can you imagine if this game was played last Saturday, Graham? It'd been like the hockey
Not
playoffs.
in this building.
It'd been the hockey playoffs. So it's always going to be a tough ask for the Fury to get results in those first games, and you're always going to be on the road.
Gerardo Bruna brought down from behind by Footy Danso and wins Ottawa a free kick in dangerous territory here. So I'd rather make that the American Graham Smith bringing down Gerardo Bruna from behind.
Well, 2 or 3 players are obviously interested in taking this. Number 88, Oliveira, is interested. Bruna seems to be there as if he wants to have a bit of a sniff as well, but it's all about the setup for Carolina. You've got to make sure, like the Fury did earlier on the Becker free kick, that you're solid, you're not jumping, you're not moving out of the way, and you're protecting that left side of the goal for the goalkeeper, Tambakis, that's setting up right now. Just making sure that his wall's perfect for any shot that might be coming in. I think left-footed up and over the top might be better here, but interesting to see.
Oliveira with the delivery, and he sends that one up and over the bar. And you were certainly going to have to try and go more towards the corners to beat the 6'3" Alex Tambakis in the North Carolina goal.
Yeah, he was just leaning back a little bit there when he made contact with it. It was always going to get up and over the crossbar, and unfortunately for the Fury, a good opportunity early in the match. 10 minutes in, it would have been a nice time to get that goal. We mentioned that first 15 minutes, Graham. They haven't really conceded much from open play in the defensive third. It's been pretty solid. They've held Carolina in midfield. It's in the attacking sense. They've got to get the penetration like we're trying to get right now.
Good win there by Portilla, and tried to outlet to Tony Taylor quickly. Now North Carolina trying to move forward outside of their own defensive third, and that one goes into touch for an Ottawa throw, well inside the North Carolina half. Tony Taylor now for Ottawa with pressure from Kyle Becker, outlets to Sergio Minicio. Salazar into the middle for Oliveira, now all the way back to midfield. Christian Portilla. Colin Falvey, who of course won an NASL fall season championship here in the nation's capital with Ottawa Fury FC in the 2015 season, then went to the Indy 11, who are now also part of USL, and won a title with them in the spring season of 2016, and spent the 2017 season in Indy as well before returning here to Ottawa. Adonijah Reed battling for the ball there. And foul called against Ottawa as North Carolina resets. Select is the official soccer ball of the USL. For the latest Select products and special offers, please visit www.selectsportsamerica.com and receive free shipping on orders over $50. Oliveira looking for an option. Under pressure, goes back to Colin Falvey. Falvey all the way back to Maxime Crépeau. His first touch, brought down by the wind there, and we'll see how much of a factor that plays as it's kind of blowing from towards Crépeau here in the first half.
And just getting back to this false 9 system, Graham, that's set up by Coach Popovich. It's key that every single one of these players, even the goalkeeper, is comfortable with the ball at their feet. A lot of times your central defenders, it's more or less just a case of hoofing the ball 50, 60 yards up the park. They've got to be able to play the ball with the left, with the right, with the chest, with the thigh, get it under control as quickly as possible, get your head up and look for options. In this case, we're seeing Falvey spread a lovely ball out here on this near side to his stopper partner. So it is really crucial that above all else, you're comfortable with the ball at your feet. It's not a hot potato. You don't want rid of it, Graham. And you're giving yourself options, especially when you're moving from the back into middle, into the attack.
That one goes out for an Ottawa corner, so they'll have their first corner here of the afternoon. Bruna looks to be going over to take this one for Fury FC. Supporters section in full force for Ottawa here this afternoon. Bruna delivers this one in low to the top of the 18. That one off target and cleared away. Minicio in for Oliveira, brings it down nicely, tries to turn his man and does. Gets it forward, Eddie Edward is up there, and that one knocked out for yet another Ottawa corner here as we tick over into the 15th minute.
Not the best of corners, that last one by Bruna, but the key for it was there was only 5 red and black shirts in that 18-yard box. 3 defenders had stayed back in the midfield third, and you had 2 players out by the ball, Graham, so you were really in a 5-on-7, 5-on-8 situation inside that 18-yard box.
Bruna with the delivery again for Ottawa. Sends this one in deep. Tony Taylor first up, brings it down. That one out of the reach of Michael Salazar, and again, North Carolina able to clear it away. Chris Manila. Oliveira. Into Portilla, and he goes all the way back into his own half for Crepeau, gives way to Manila. Portilla. Now to Manila, under pressure, has to turn back and go to Crepeau after the pressure from Daniel Rios.
And it certainly looks like Carolina's just setting up with these 2 banks of 4, Graham. 4 at the back, straight across, 4 in the middle, straight across. And as you mentioned earlier on, the 2 strikers, one will drop back every once in a while just to try and find that little pocket of space between Falvey and the holding midfielder for the Ottawa Fury here this afternoon.
Well, North Carolina FC still looking for their first ever win at TD Place in 4 previous matches here. No wins, 1 draw, 3 losses, just 3 goals for, 10 goals against. So Ottawa certainly has gotten the better of the North Carolina franchise in their history here at TD Place. North Carolina look to get something going here. Down that left side, Colin Falvey gets ahead to it, and Maxime Crepeau quickly off his line to collect the loose ball.
I think he was asking for a little bit of a push there in the back that he received as he was trying to judge that bounce. It's obviously coming off the AstroTurf, or coming off the turf, obviously, the artificial turf. It does make it a little bit difficult for new players that have played possibly on grass their entire career. Yes, you practice on it every once in a while, but until you get into game situations, and in that case, the ball was deflected, it spun off, and Falvey's got to try and time it perfectly. He did get his head on it, and it safely went back to goalkeeper Crepeau.
Falvey in possession for Ottawa. Now Chris Manila, who has previously featured for Toronto FC. More of a midfield player, but is due to the injuries that Ottawa's been facing in that back line. You have Ono Obasi, who's also a possibility to kind of play in that center back role as well, but he of course picked up that suspension following an incident against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And Nana Nakora, who was expected to be the center back alongside Colin Falvey this season, is still recovering from a pretty nasty ankle injury that he sustained in the Soccer Bowl championship game, as you may recall, that as Adakora, along with Maxim Tissot and Christian Portilla here with Ottawa, as well as Kyle Becker for North Carolina, did win that championship last season.
That's a tremendous achievement as well when you consider it was a brand new team, Graham, that was put together, and you know, we saw it took Ottawa a couple of years to do that, from 14 to 15. I think the nature of the way Ottawa's built its team over the last 4 or 5 years, Graham, there's such a turnover. You know, we've already had 3 coaching changes now, or 2 coaching changes over and above Mark DeSantos when he started. And it's a situation now when you start getting into the huge turnover that you bring in year after year, it does take a long time chemistry-wise to get it right out on the park. And not only that, but when you're now bringing in a brand new system to play, players that have possibly never even heard of a false nine, never mind played a false nine before, it does make it a little bit difficult for them to transition into what you hope is going to be wins and points over the course of the season.
Well, and this is something that head coach Nikola Popovic has really been through before. If you look back to Swope Park over the last 2 years, going to the finals as an assistant coach to Mark DeSantos, and then, of course, taking over the head coach job where he changed the system. Of course, there was some change in players as well, and was still able to replicate a similar result in getting back to the USL Cup final. Unfortunately, it was a similar result, albeit a much closer scoreline in last year's final against Louisville.
Yeah, there's some really powerful teams in this USL, Graham, that do have money to spend on quality players. And I mean, you look at a situation of, you know, we'll look at it a lot more later, but you know, you get Cincinnati coming in here next week, who have one of the all-time favourite Ottawa Fury players ever to wear the red and black for the Fury, Richie Ryan, and it'll be nice to get a chance to see him next week and get his thoughts on the USL and get his thoughts on what it's like coming back to play in Ottawa. I'm not sure how many games he actually came and played as an opposing player when he went to Jacksonville.
He's
Miami.
Never been back.
He never has
been.
That's
He
right.
was when Jacksonville came here, he was kind of caught up in that trade to Miami FC,
Right.
and then when they came, he was injured at the time. So, yes, the former and first ever captain in Fury FC history has yet to return to TD Place since leaving Ottawa, and will make his return next Saturday when Ottawa host Cincinnati at 2 o'clock. But you're right, Gordy. Like for me, if you and that's kind of it's the conference that we focus on because it's what Ottawa plays in. But that Eastern Conference, you know, there is some impressive clubs in there. You look at the success of Louisville over the last couple of years. Talked about FC Cincinnati. Of course, you got the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We know kind of the club that they have been for the last number of years. A very powerful team. There's so many. Tough opponents, and New York Red Bulls too. Incredible quality in that club as well. So really, when you look at the Eastern Conference this year, no really easy games, and you have to work for all 90 minutes to claim points this season. There's no question about that. As Adonijah Reed now away for Ottawa Fury FC down that right side, still in possession, tripped up a bit there and still going. Pokes it through to the midfield. Bruna, first touch, bit heavy. Can Tony Taylor get on the end of it? Gets there to keep it in play. Taylor along the goal line. First touch gets away from him. And now an opportunity for Becker to alleviate some pressure. Oliveira gets a touch but knocks it out of play for a North Carolina throw here in the 22nd minute. Still 0-0.
We talked about the importance of penetration. That was an absolutely fantastic ball that Bruna, first time left-footed, swept it all of 40 yards to the charging winger down this outside. Just couldn't get beyond the final defender. But that's the type of ball that you've got to have, Graham, to get that penetration in and about a flat back four like Carolina like to play here this afternoon.
Hear exclusive stories directly from the USL's players in USLsoccer.com from the pitch, with written and video content that provides unfiltered access and a first-person look into the professional game and players' everyday lives. And don't forget, the USL's official Twitter feed keeps you up to date with news, live game updates, and highlights from around the league 24/7. Follow at USL on Twitter. That one headed into touch by DJ Taylor away from Michael Salazar. Sergio Minicio to take the throw for Ottawa. Into Taylor. Under pressure from Becker, forced all the way back inside his own half now to Chris Manila. Colin Falvey just trying to draw out the white shirts of North Carolina.
I think the one thing we're seeing right now from Carolina, that discipline from the midfield four. They're not getting sucked into an attacking third position. They're just trying to hold their position in central midfield. We haven't seen an awful lot of attacking flair from Becker down this right-hand side. Deleuze obviously likes to hold more of a midfielding role, but there's just nothing there's no commitment right now into the attacking third from a body standpoint. Certainly balls are getting played in there, but committing bodies forward, I think Carolina's just trying to keep it simple, don't make any mistakes, don't allow, above all else, the Fury to play around you.
Foul called against Ottawa, much to the protest of Gerardo Bruna, and there was a kind of almost a high boot there in towards Eddie Edward. You didn't see the call. Right in there, no foul call there, but Bruna gets the second one. Not sure what was on it there, if it hit his hand.
Yeah, not sure.
Couldn't tell from our vantage point, but nonetheless a free kick coming here for North Carolina FC, and once again it will be the Canadian international Kyle Becker settling behind this one. 27 years of age is Kyle Becker. Delivers this one in, headed away by Tony Taylor. Back out to the midfield, Kevin Oliveira giving chase, and it's forced all the way back to Alex Tambakis, who's well outside of his penalty area.
I think midway through this first half, Graham, you have to say that Coach Popovich would be a bit delighted with their performance, because they haven't allowed Carolina much opportunities from open play inside the attacking third for them. They've kept them in front of them, they've not allowed them to get behind them. In the central midfield, they'll look as if they're able to, get the ball under control, stop, make a few turns here or there, and if you're able to change the angle of attack over the back four between the two stoppers, even better. So I think in your opening home opener here in 2018, 4 minutes into the match, Popovich has to be fairly content with the performance of the 11 that he's got out here this afternoon.
Should also mention that the match officials for this afternoon's game, Pierre-Luc Lausier is our head official, Richard Gamache and Sean Hornsby, the two linesmen, and Matt Soer is the fourth official here this afternoon. Becker in possession now for North Carolina. Knocked into touch off the leg of Kevin Oliveira for a North Carolina throw.
And just defending in numbers, there was 2-3 red shirts all around him there, and he was trying to make a play, just making it impossible, Graham, again to get that penetration in behind the back four of Ottawa.
Portilla first up for Ottawa. Oliveira can't win that one in the air, and North Carolina take over deep in the Ottawa half. Becker, first touch delivery, headed away by Eddie Edward. Push on the back of Adonijah Reed. That will draw a foul, and Ottawa will take over here inside their own half. 26th minute, game remains 0-0.
Well, you look at this Carolina midfield, obviously. You mentioned Kyle Becker, drafted in the first round, third overall by Toronto FC in the 2013 MLS Super Draft. And Austin Deleuze, the lad who now has, obviously after 22 minutes, gone beyond the 10,000 minutes played for the Carolina franchise. A fantastic record, that has to be said. It really is. To be with a club for that long, Graham, shows a lot of loyalty, a lot of commitment, dedication. And full play to the young man who's out there with his 10,000 minutes. He was drafted in the first round in the 2010 MLS Super Draft by the New York Red Bulls, 14th overall. So lots of pedigree out there for North Carolina and Colin Clark as they look to pick up some points on the road.
Yeah, and hats off to Austin Deleuze. He's now 6th all-time in the minutes leader for North Carolina's franchise. Capono Low tops that list, if you can believe it, with an impressive 19,779 minutes. And of course we remember him back from the NASL days. Tisha Palani at 11,656. Connor Tobin remains with the club as well. Matthew Watson, Nazmi Al-Badawi, who has been there up until this past season. He's since moved on. He'll soon be caught by Austin Deleuze. He's at 10,139 minutes. So in the next match or two, likely to see Austin Deleuze move up the all-time ranks for North Carolina.
And I think that's one thing that, Graham, that has to show. We talked earlier on about it being, a situation of turnover. A lot of players obviously want to come and play in Carolina. They want to stay in Carolina. That's why you have a lot of these lads reaching the amount of minutes that they are doing. So certainly the Carolina franchise over the years doing something right.
All right, we're going to head down to the sidelines, and Tyler McDonald has something for us on North Carolina. Tyler?
Thanks, Graham. And it seems like the instructions coming from Colin Clark earlier on were for his midfielders to try and hold the ball more inside of that midfield. Now they seem to have responded well to that. The instructions are now to spray the ball along the outside and try to get his wingers to push up more. They are very dangerous along the outside. We've seen that in previous games from North Carolina. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that. And we'll have, of course, Tyler McDonald will, as part of our broadcast team, he will be on the sidelines each and every home match for us this season. So excited to have that. And of course, don't forget that following today's match to head over to the Ottawa Fury FC Facebook page for our post-match show. You can catch that streamed on Facebook Live.
Well, it is interesting that Tyler pointed out that Colin Clark wasn't happy with, and we mentioned about that flat midfield for Graham, just really not wanting to commit forward. And if that's something that Coach Clark is asking them to do, we are going to see, I'm hoping, a lot more from Becker down this right-hand side here this afternoon, because he's been pretty tentative as far as just being, a little bit reactive as opposed to proactive, and unfortunately for Carolina, it showed in the attacking third.
Well, through 29 minutes, possession favoring Ottawa Fury FC 60-40.
I'd say that's about right, just based on what we've been sitting watching here for 29 minutes. It's still 0-0 though, that's the only stat that counts, Graham.
North Carolina looking like they're trying something off the training pitch here, and it almost turns out for them, but couldn't get the clean header away, and Maxime Crépeau easily collects that one for Ottawa. Outlets to Christian Portilla. Kevin Oliveira slices his way into the middle. Sends this one long. Good run there by Adonijah Reed. Tries to get in beyond Footy Danso. Never an easy task to get in behind the 6'3" Gambian. And when you look at Adonijah Reed at just 5'6", Tony Taylor now trying to chase this one down. He'll have to battle with Footy Danso, who'll shepherd that one out for a Carolina goal kick.
And we've talked about this before, and I'm sure you and AJ have talked about it before, but Footy Danso has to be the best football name ever.
Right up there with Socrates now.
It really is. I mean, if ever a lad was born to play football, it's Footy Danso. I'm sure maybe when he gets a bit older and his soccer career ends, he can be a place kicker maybe in the NFL, but the fact of the matter is, it's been a decent start here this afternoon for the Ottawa Fury. I think what's been crucial in central midfield is they're just trying to maintain possession as best they can, and any time they get that opportunity, we've seen it like 3 balls now in the last 5 minutes, to try and play that ball up and over, even down the channel, to take on a Footy Danso, for example, on this right side of Carolina's middle. They're certainly going to try it. And that just has to continue. You've just got, it's all about confidence, Graham, and I think the one thing that happened in the first couple of games is the heads went down. You start conceding goals, you start leaking goals, maybe a little bit you're not expecting to, and obviously everybody goes out there thinking you're going to win the match, but when you start leaking goals and now you start, a bit of navel gazing, you're not really taking ownership. Unfortunately for the Fury, you start throwing away points. Dangerous giveaway in the midfield there by Ottawa, and Gerardo Bruna had real no choice but to make the foul, as Carolina could have been away with numbers there. Look at that, what a touch by Adonijah Reed on that last play. My goodness. Got his foot down on the ball, and unfortunately for him, it was later given away, but now Ottawa back in possession. Ooh, hard challenge there on Kevin Oliveira in front of the Ottawa bench, and they're calling for a card on Graham Smith, the American. We're 31 and a half minutes into this first half now, and there's been a couple of tackles that possibly could have brought out a yellow card from the official. That certainly was one of them. There was a Fury one earlier on that possibly could have been looked at as well, but I think the referee, quite rightly trying to let the game flow, trying to allow these two teams to play football and make sure that, they're putting on a spectacle for these fans here in the home opener for the Ottawa Fury. Again, Carolina just trying to clear their lines, not really trying to find a white shirt, Graham, more or less just punting the ball 40, 50 yards up the park and hoping that it is a white shirt that gets on the end of it. Lovely skill, nice touch. Becker with some nice movement with the Dutchman Marios Lomas. Has one of the 4 goals on the season for North Carolina FC. Daniel Rios has a pair, and Stephen Miller, one of the substitutes, has the other. Should mention the substitutes this afternoon for North Carolina FC. Austin Guerrero, the goalkeeper. Aaron Guillen, Wolito Fernandez, 2 defenders. Stephen Miller, Bernard Luxbucher, the Austrian midfielder.
Dre Fortune, the other midfielder, and Donovan Wallo, the Cameroonian, is the lone forward available on the bench for Colin Clark's side.
Well, just watching these first 33 minutes, I've been really impressed, Graham, with central midfielder there, Christian Portilla. I just think that holding role in front of the back four, he really is critical to make sure that anything that's coming down the middle of the park is getting stemmed. He's almost playing that Richie Ryan role that we saw for so long, Graham. Just picking up the ball from the two stoppers, trying to see if I can get anything going in attack, and if you can't, get it back to them and start all over again.
Long ball played over the top, bit too much on it for Adonijah Reed to get on the end of it, so out for a Carolina goal kick. 34th minute here at TD Place, 0-0 is the score. It's the Fury FC home opener coming into today's match. Ottawa, no wins, no draws, 3 losses. North Carolina FC, 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses. So much like Ottawa, North Carolina started the season in that 0-3 hole before, as you mentioned earlier, Gord, picking up that win over Charlotte 2 weekends ago. Or sorry, I should say last weekend, and then that midweek 0-0 draw in Toronto on Wednesday night against TFC2.
And they had a glorious chance pretty much at the death of that game on Wednesday that hit the woodwork, where it would have given them all 3 points. So that would have been a terrific start to this mini road trip for Coach Clark in Carolina, but didn't happen. They got a share of the spoils at 1 point apiece, and they now come in here, I think, pretty confident. You know, in any sport, you go a couple of games undefeated, Graham, it's all about confidence. It's all about that momentum. And for Carolina, they come in here with a little bit of it. Certainly they'd like to pull off 4 points on the Canadian sojourn here in 2018.
Played into the penalty area, some good give and go here. There's a shot, and they've opened the scoring. North Carolina FC here in the 35th minute take the lead. Some great passing inside the penalty area.
Well, there was just too many heads spinning, Graham. There too much ball watching going on, and unfortunately for the Ottawa Fury, that's a wonderful finish into the roof of the net. Goalkeeper absolutely no chance. A run inside the channel. Colin Farvey gets taken up position, coming across to help cover. And I think that's Rios that got the goal, Graham. I'm not 100% sure, but...
Yeah, Daniel Rios, his 3rd goal of the season after some great ball movement. Mario Lomas was in there as well, and a great finish from Daniel Rios at the top of the penalty area, beating Maxime Crépeau, top corner. So Ottawa Fury FC find themselves trailing 1-0 through 35 minutes.
And that's really the first time, Graham, as we said, that Carolina have gotten in behind them. And we heard about the discussion that Tyler had mentioned earlier on about hearing Colin Clark asking for more advanced positions from your wingers, more advanced position from your midfielders. That's exactly what happened. You committed bodies into the box, and before you know it, 1 pass, 2 pass, 3rd pass is a shot, it's in the back of the net, and the Fury are looking at 1-0. In a first half where I thought they'd been fairly comfortable, Graham. I thought they'd been well in control of possession, as you mentioned, 60-40 earlier on. But it's all about the penetration. Carolina have shown it, they've got the goal here, and they now have the 1-goal advantage.
Adonijah Reed looking to find an answer for Fury FC. Now into the penalty area. Comes back out. Bruna, Oliveira. Back to Gerardo Bruna. Trying to find an option here. Goes back to Christian Portilla. Manicio out on the left-hand side against Kyle Becker. With the problem of having both Ono Obasi and Maxim Tissot unavailable today, they have Sergio Manicio on that left side. No problem with the player, but just the fact that he's a right-footed player, not a left-footed player down that left flank. So kind of a bit of a different approach to try and get those deliveries into the penalty area. Bruno whips it back across to the feet of Sergio Manicio. Salazar tries to cut inside. Forced back to Manicio, now Chris Manella. Manicio, Oliveira, Salazar. Back inside the Ottawa half to Portilla, now quickly to Gerardo Bruna. Bruna some room to run here. Outlets wide to Eddie Edward. The Ottawa native cuts inside, Edward still going, tries to find Salazar, but Becker there to intercept and clear it back out to half. Minicio against Becker. Now to Tony Taylor. He and Becker both go down. North Carolina win back possession, tried to spray it down the line, but Marios Lomas had checked his run, and Chris Manila back inside his own half.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns you'd have right now for the Ottawa Fury is that your fullbacks, Edward and Minicio, are just not getting forward as much. When you play with a three in midfield, and the three that the Fury are playing with, got pulled back, they're playing quite narrow, Graham. There's no width coming in central midfield. It's imperative your two fullbacks, they get into those spots as quickly as possible if the space is there. And unfortunately, they're holding too far back and they're just not committing into central midfield to support the three in midfield and obviously the three lads up front. I'd just like to see that a little bit more. Eddie Edwards, certainly we know how dangerous he can be when he gets on a gallop down that right flank. I'd like to see a little bit more here. Sergio Minicio, if he's able to just stretch his legs, get beyond Becker down this right hand side.
Michael Harrington in possession for North Carolina FC inside their own half. Get some pressure from Gerardo Bruna. Piabo Due in possession. Forced back now to Michael Harrington. Footy Danso. Gives way to Alex Tambakis under pressure from Salazar. Punts this one into the Ottawa half. First to it is the head of Eddie Edward. Now Portilla tries to send it long, but Salazar has to get back on side.
Yeah, he was caught there. He pressed a little bit much up towards the goalkeeper the first ball, Graham, and unfortunately when the second one came back to him fairly quickly, he was just in no man's land, caught in offside. He realised it himself, and he was encouraging Taylor, I think, to try and get back up in as well and cause some bother there, but just wasn't happening. You can see the confidence now that Carolina has. I mean, every single one of these lads now are just relaxed. It's like a weight's been taken off their shoulders. Now they'll just be able to enjoy their football, get out there, pass the ball around nicely, and hey, if they can snatch a second goal, really quieten this crowd down, which has at 40 minutes now really gone out of the game with that goal that came about 7 or 8 minutes ago.
Tony Taylor in possession for Ottawa, goes to Kevin Oliveira. Oliveira outlets to Michael Salazar. Now Minicio. Oliveira. Minicio forced all the way back inside his own half to Chris Manila. Will now head downstairs again to Tyler McDonald, who's got something on Ottawa Fury FC. Tyler?
Thanks, Graham. And Gordy, you were talking about how you want to see Eddie Edward and Sergio Minicio push up more. Well, that's what Coach Nikola Popovich has been trying to get his lads to do, try to get Edward and Minicio to push up the field during possession. We'll see how key it is now for Ottawa to respond after going 1-0 down. Back to you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tyler. And Colin Falvey now in possession. Throw to Bruna. Has Eddie Edward to his right, finds him. Forced back to Bruna. Portilla now to Falvey. Inside their own half, Ottawa moves it around. Kevin Oliveira, they're just trying to find a seam to get that penetrating ball through. Now outlet to the left side, bit too heavy for Sergio Minicio to get to. But into touch for a North Carolina throw.
Yeah, and to a point earlier on, Graham, you look now where Minicio and Edward are setting up. The first 40 minutes, they've been inside pretty much their own half when the play was developing in central midfield. On that last occasion, Minicio was 15-20 yards down. We just saw Eddie Edward with a 40-45 yard run up the opposition's at half as well. So excellent that we're seeing that a little bit more, but their defenders first. They've got to make sure they defend properly.
North Carolina looking for a second here. This effort towards the back post, skied high and wide.
Well, the same thing happened exactly here. Here we see at the edge of the 18-yard box, there is no one within 5 yards of him when that ball gets played back. And that's how the first goal was scored as well. We're not tracking back properly from central midfield to the edge of the box. And unfortunately for the Fury, you've got to get that sorted out. So we've got an injury there. Somebody's twisted a bit of an ankle, I think. Looks like it's Rios that's possibly down the goal scorer here this afternoon as everyone gets a chance to come over for some water, but it's not very hot. I think it's about 11 degrees, 12 degrees here this afternoon, Graham, but it's perfect conditions for playing football. And unfortunately, as we said, it looks like Rios has picked up an injury. The referee's trying to get him up on his feet, and he's asking him to go off the bench behind the Ottawa Fury goal, right in front of the supporters groups, who will, I'm sure, give him a hard time, as we can hear. Just a twisted ankle maybe, Graham, but I don't know if Colin Clark would want to let this go much longer. He does look in a little bit of distress though when you see him. He is putting his boot back on though, so I would expect him not to be off for too long. Fury starting it back off. Falvey in possession just outside his 18-yard box. There's Manisio in that advanced position we were just talking about, Graham. It's nice to see. It's all about taking what the opposition is giving you, and we talked about Carolina keeping a fairly narrow midfield four. And when you've got Edward and Manisio with space down the flanks, you've got to take advantage of it. Work together with the winger ahead of you.
Hearing that we'll have at minimum 1 minute of extra time here in the opening half as Ottawa Fury FC look to find that equalizer before the halftime whistle. Salazar's touch. That one takes a deflection, and now North Carolina back in possession. Eddie Edward looks to win it back for Ottawa and does. Edward still going, pulled from behind. Played advantage there as Adonijah Reed gets it into Eddie Edward, leaves it for Reed. He goes down inside the penalty area and is waved off by Pierre-Luc Lausier as Ottawa had some good give and go inside the North Carolina penalty area between Eddie Edward and Adonijah Reed as the two Canadians tried to link up there.
Yeah, it was a lovely little piece of play by Edward. Just continues into the 18-yard box as the ball gets brought down. Nice little, you know what, I'm sorry, Graham, but that's a yellow card. That has to be a yellow card for simulation. We don't like to see that in the game. Reed, there wasn't any play within about 3 yards of him, unfortunately, when he went to ground. So if the referee had decided to pull out a yellow card, he wouldn't have been wrong at all in giving that yellow out. But
yeah, and it was a good touch by Edward to find Adonijah Reed, but his first touch a bit too heavy. Ball got ahead of him and he went down far too easily in the penalty area.
Rios back on the park there, bringing a lovely ball down, and then he gets a nice little 1-2 there from his striking partner, the big Dutchman.
Well, Lomas and Rio with some nifty footwork back and forth there, and that one did go into touch for a North Carolina throw here as we tick over into stoppage time. As we mentioned, expect a minimum of 1 minute here in the opening half. Falls to Kyle Becker. Sends that across the top of the penalty area. North Carolina threatening here, looking to extend their lead late in the half, and well done by Adonijah Reed to shepherd that one out for an Ottawa goal kick. And there's the whistle to draw a conclusion of the opening 45 minutes here at TD Place. 1-0 Ottawa trailing North Carolina FC on that 35th minute goal by Daniel Rios. And in just a moment here, we'll head downstairs and join Bianca Molnar with our head coach, Nikola Popovic. And we'll head downstairs to join coach, presentation of Ross Video. And that was Fury FC head coach Nikola Popovic scored, and you could hear in that conversation with Bianca that they really need to start pressing forward in this second half. Tyler talked about that. Those were the instructions he was giving, and especially on those wide sides, that's where Ottawa needs to be able to attack North Carolina FC, because what we've seen from that opening 45 minutes, there's just no space down the middle.
Not just that, but I mean, I think for the first 35 minutes of this half until the goal was scored, Ottawa had things well under control. The possession was nice. At the back, they weren't really being put under any pressure from open play. Set plays, Carolina certainly looked a little bit dangerous, but The fact of the matter is, you didn't trail the player back. We were ball watching for the goal, and unfortunately, at any level of football, when you're ball watching and you're not trailing midfielders into the box, you're going to concede goals, and that's exactly what happened here in the 35th minute.
1-0 Ottawa Fury FC trailing North Carolina FC through 45 minutes here at TD Place. Coming up, it's our halftime show where we'll also speak with Ottawa Fury FC president John Pugh.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Hey, Preza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Welcome back to TD Place, and one of the most beautiful days we've had so far here in 2018. A perfect day for soccer as North Carolina FC leads Ottawa Fury FC 1-0 here at halftime. And while we would take a look at our out-of-town scores, but this is the only game going on in the USL right now. A handful of games going on tonight, though, including FC Cincinnati against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and FC Cincinnati will be here next week to face off against Ottawa Fury FC, and a very familiar face coming into town, and that's former Ottawa Fury FC captain Richie Ryan, and he's had his chances to come back and play his first ever game here at TD Place, not in a Fury jersey, but he got traded in that Jacksonville and Miami trade in the NASL, and then when Miami came to come play against the Ottawa Fury FC, well, Richie Ryan was unfortunately injured. So his first game back here at TD Place, and if you're an Ottawa Fury FC fan for a long time, you'll very much recognize Richie Ryan and the greatness he provided the Ottawa Fury FC fans throughout the years here, and I'm sure it'll be a great welcome back for Richie Ryan. We'll now take another quick break. When we come back, Graham Ivory and Gord Smith will talk to John Pugh, the president of Ottawa Fury FC. It's 1-0 at halftime. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Welcome to the fourth episode of The Breakdown. Once again, I've handpicked my plays of the week, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Ball sent in. Crossed away, team save, keeps it 1-0.
This clip is both attacking and defensive. You see on the Orange County counter-attack here, he does extremely well to carry his run forward, and he gives the defense of San Antonio a lot of problems. And then if you flip it now and you look at his recovery run, it's fantastic. You know, he tracks the immediate run of the attacker, and then he follows it through and continues to back up his keeper on the line. And it's a fantastic goal line clearance, and it keeps them in the game after 60 minutes.
Hope out. Back to Sari. Chip toward the back post. Felix Jacob, and an early goal for S2.
The reason I've picked this clip is not just the finish and the header, but also if you watch Sari's assist. He backs up his winger here, and he creates himself an extremely good angle to give that cross. And technically it's an extremely tough pass to make. When the ball's coming at you and you've got to give a 90-degree angle on it and cross it at the back post, it's extremely difficult because you have to think about all sorts at that stage. You have to think about the keeper coming to catch it, but then also giving the loft to get it over the defender and down. And it's a fantastic assist, and that's the reason it's in my play of the week.
For O-line, Von Williams. Stepped up big, his number was called. Look at this, perfectly timed. It's Sunni Saad. Saad lines him up.
Sunni Saad's goal for Indy 11 for me was created purely by Iosi's pass here. When the ball's played into Iosi, he takes a couple steps back, and that gives him the opportunity to get his head up and see Saad's movement. And it's a fantastic driven pass over the defence, and it's a fantastic finish into the corner with good disguise.
Stability in terms of paying so that players from the Caribbean, players from South America.
This clip is one of my favourite ones. The athletic trainer for St. Louis, is just so casual with it. I mean, he takes it out the air one-handed as if he's not done anything about it. And you know, he's caught it and throw back, just dead casual. And I think he's amazed every single player on the bench, including all his players. So as you can see from the breakdown this week, it's not just players that get on, it's also athletic trainers. So keep that in mind for future games. I hope you've enjoyed my hand-picked plays from the week on the 4th episode of The Breakdown. I look forward to seeing you next week.
And welcome back to our halftime show. Ottawa Fury FC trailing North Carolina FC 1-0 through 45 minutes here at TD Place, and we're happy to be joined by the president of Ottawa Fury FC, John Pugh. John, coming into this season, certainly another year of change, a big year for the club, and a very kind of focus on Canadiana, it seems, kind of right from the get-go. And we'll start this conversation by talking about the appointment of the most capped player in Canadian history, and Julien de Guzman now kind of leading the ship here for Ottawa Fury FC as the general manager.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Julien's a legend in his own lifetime, and came in at the end of last season, and we appointed him general manager. That was the position that he aspired to, and obviously the first task then was to go out and find a head coach, and Nikola Popovic was the man that we chose. I think he ticked most of our boxes. He speaks 4 languages, Euro Pro license, a coach who knows the league, who had taken Swope Park Rangers almost 2 years running to the final and so on. So that was the first tasks, and then the task was to fill out the roster. And Julien has a lot of contacts, and a lot of contacts with obviously Canadian players. And there were a lot of really good Canadian players that were available, including 3 players from San Francisco, the Deltas, and so on. So it's a tremendous thrill for us to be able to say that we brought in 11 new players, and more than 50% of our players on the roster are Canadian, which is something to be very, very proud of, and we're very, very glad to be able to bring some of these players back from other leagues to be able to play in Canada for a Canadian team.
And kind of talk about the importance about that. You mentioned how proud you are, and you have a long-standing history in this game, and we've seen when you took over Ottawa Fury with the women's team and the number of players that were kind of developed there that became part of our women's national team program, and now the opportunity to do something similar here with the men's program here with Fury FC.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been a real thrill to bring some of these Canadian internationals. A couple of them haven't really shown for us yet. Obviously, Maxime Tissot and Nana Radicora have been injured, and they're healing, and they'll be back hopefully in a few weeks, and then we'll have 2 yet more Canadians on the field.
How important, John, is it to a team that's in the nation's capital that they have such a Canadian identity?
I think it is important. It's also important that we have a local identity. So, having players like Carl Hayworth, even having players like Falvey come back and join us, for example. But obviously we've got local boys like Eddie Edward and Jamar Dixon, and that all adds spice to the mix for local fans. So yeah, it's great. These are really good Canadian players, and we're happy to have them.
John, appreciate the time, and we hope we see the comeback here in the second half of play. And our halftime will continue after this, where we'll get to our first half stats and highlights as we return to Ottawa Fury FC Soccer just after this.
Hey, Preza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
Welcome back to Ottawa Fury FC Soccer. Second half action about to get underway. But before we get there, we're going to have a look at that the first half highlights brought to you by Labatt. And Gord, there really wasn't much to speak of from either side until the 35th minute when North Carolina were able to open the scoring.
Yeah, I think that was the unfortunate part. The game was just sort of flowing along. Both teams are fairly comfortable in that 0-0 role. No one really pushing anything forward into the attacking third. And as we start to work our way through our highlights, we'll get to that final goal that has obviously given Carolina a 1-0 lead. That's the shot earlier on where the goalkeeper just wasn't 100% sure where he was going. And the ball got played back, and here's the goal, a terrific chip into the top right-hand corner by Rios. A lovely run there. You see him pointing, that's where I want it, and again, nobody picking up Rios at the edge of the 18-yard box. And unfortunately for the Fury, they go down 1-0, and there were other occasions later on after this goal where Carolina, right here, again at the edge of the 18-yard box, there's no one picking up anyone in a red shirt even close to him, Graham, and that has to get better.
Yeah, and that second opportunity that we just saw there, Gord, almost a carbon copy of what resulted in that opening goal for North Carolina FC. And then there was that opportunity. There was a shout for a penalty there, but really there wasn't much contact that brought Adonai Jarry down in the penalty area as Ottawa looked to trying to find that equalizer late. As we get to our halftime stats brought to you by Rico, and you see Ottawa Fury FC, they own the possession game, Gord, and 58, say 59% to 41%, and it was much higher at points of that opening 45 minutes. But at the end of the day, it's all on what you do with the possession you have, and Ottawa does start this second half in possession.
Yeah, I think the disappointing part, and we saw that final graphic with the stats, Graham, was shots on goal was 0 for the Ottawa Fury, and that just has to get better. If you're at any league, if you're wanting to pull off wins and put points in the bank, Graham, you've got to score goals. 0-0, 1-0 loss does absolutely nothing, not only for the standings, but does nothing for your confidence either. And I would think that the Fury would come out here possibly with a little bit better purpose in the second half, try and get those wide players down the flanks, try and get bodies into the attacking third a little bit quicker than we saw in that first half.
Confirmed that there were no substitutes at halftime for either side. Colin Falvey tries to send that one down the line. Carolina win back possession in the midfield. It's Graham Smith, outlets it over to DJ Taylor.
I think one thing you might see from the Ottawa Fury, if we're trying to push the fullbacks forward a bit more, Graham, is that number 6, Chris Manella, number 5, will just drop in between the two stoppers as Falvey and the other defender just spread out a little bit wider, Graham, and try to get some width to the game here this afternoon. We've already, Eddie Edward, there he is halfway through. We see on the far side now, Minicio getting the ball all the way midway up against 1v1 against Becker.
Minicio delivers this one in, bit too heavy, and that one out for a North Carolina goal kick.
Yeah, disappointing final ball game, but Popovich has to be a little bit happier that inside these first 2 minutes of the second half, he's already seen Eddie Edward and Manicio pushing well into the opposition half. And I think that's going to be something that has to continue here in this second half if Ottawa are getting back into this match.
Portilla brings that down. Kevin Oliveira maintains possession for Ottawa. Outlets to Manicio. Now Chris Manila. Under pressure, sends that one forward looking for Salazar. Now Tony Taylor with a touch, still in possession. Nifty move there. Now he outlets to Christian Portilla, rather make that Gerardo Bruna. Oliveira. Not enough oomph on that pass to find Salazar, but Oliveira back in possession. That one ahead of Gerardo Bruna. Now a chance for North Carolina to counter. But foul call there on Oliveira, and really a challenge he had to make after giving the ball away in the midfield.
Well, something's just been pointed out there by the referee. I have no idea what it is, but it looks like the lad's going to have to go off and do, I don't know if it's something on his boot or something on his shin guard, but the referee did send him off the field of play, that he's got to get something taken care of. And I'm not 100% sure, maybe if Tyler's able to find out what the problem was there, but it looks like he is wearing gloves, but I'm not sure as if it's something with his boot that he has to get fixed or what's going on, but hopefully we'll have some sort of an update for that as it continues.
49th minute here at TD Place. 1-0 the score for North Carolina FC on that first half tally by Daniel Rios, his third of the season in the 35th minute, and that's where we stand. Michael Salazar. Back inside his own half to Chris Manila.
And there we see Portilla, like we talked about earlier on, just dropping in between the two stoppers, Graham, allowing the possibility for Edward and Manicio on that far side to get up and down the wing, and that is going to be crucial here this afternoon, because Carolina's, again, we talked earlier on in the first half, a very narrow midfield four. They're willing to give Ottawa Fury the flanks. They're not worried about the flanks, it pretty much seems, all afternoon. It's once it gets into the attacking third, then coverage becomes a little bit tighter. You're playing like a shadow almost on the black and red shirt, and that's making it difficult for the Fury to advance the ball into the attacking third. But bright start here in the second half, 5 minutes into it. Ottawa Fury look as if they do realise they're in a bit of a dogfight here this afternoon, and they've got to take the game to Carolina. They can't sit back anymore. They've got to make sure their play is in the ascendancy.
Watch to get exclusive video content and photography from across the USL. Make sure to follow the league's official Instagram account at uslsoccer.com. And now a foot race with Kevin Oliveira. And that was won by Michael Harrington, who knocked it into touch. And Oliveira could have been away had he gotten there ahead of Harrington.
A nice little bit of pressure though, Graham, and that's what you've got to do, put Harrington under a little bit of pressure. Possibly, you know, he might be, as far from a pace standpoint, the weaker of the back four, and if you're able to get a one-on-one, knock the ball past them, get beyond them, you could have some success here this afternoon for the Fury in the second half.
Well, you haven't seen either centre back for North Carolina really under much pressure so far this afternoon, as the veterans Michael Harrington and Footy Danso have been very composed in that back line for North Carolina.
That was a fantastic first touch there by Lomas. There was an opening down here.
This one delivered in. And no chance taken there by Colin Falvey, and he heads that one up and over the goal. And not sure if he took the mid of Maxime Crépeau on the challenge, who was also coming out to punch that one away, but Colin Falvey remaining down inside the 6-yard box for Ottawa.
And that first touch we just saw there by Lomas, fantastic. But it's the second ball, as the ball comes into the 18-yard box, that Falvey and the goalkeeper collide. And unfortunately for the Fury stopper captain today, he came out worse for the wear. But a corner kick, the Fury have to defend this. Can't afford to concede a second goal and go down behind 2-0.
Becker with the delivery to the near post. That one cleared away by Christian Portilla. Oliveira to give chase. First to it for Ottawa. Tony Taylor gets a touch. He's pulled from behind. No foul called, and now Becker away for North Carolina. Tries to send this one into the back post, and Maxime Crépeau battling a bit of the sun and the wind on that cross, but nonetheless able to collect the ball and outlets to Minicio down the left side for Ottawa. Michael Salazar now. Oliveira. Back inside his own half for Colin Falvey. Pass takes a deflection into touch for an Ottawa throw. Eddie Edward takes it quickly for Ottawa to Gerardo Bruna.
Well, I think Coach Popovich has seen enough. Somebody's going to be getting pulled off here because Carl Haworth has taken his shirt off, and it looks like he will be getting ready to come in here this afternoon for the Ottawa Fury. Very, very early here in the second half. I'm sure Coach Popovich sent them out with instructions, and either someone's not following those instructions, Graham, or he just sees the game slipping away from him, even after that bright start in the first couple of minutes here in the second half.
Crépeau with a very well-placed ball there to send it forward for Ottawa. Good touch by Adonijah Reed. Could have kept going, but didn't realize that the ball was kind of carrying with him after he tumbled down after the initial challenge. Portilla wins it back in the midfield for Ottawa. Sergio Minicio here in the 54th minute at TD Place. 1-0 North Carolina FC leading in that after a first half goal from Daniel Rios. It's the home opener for Ottawa Fury FC, looking to right things after an 0-3 start. Challenged one away from Gerardo Bruna, but Ottawa still in possession inside their own half. Today's attendance 6,137 at TD Place, so a great home opener crowd for Ottawa Fury FC, and they love nothing more than an equalizing goal here to lift them from their seats. Tony Taylor. Bruna looking for Minicio, good first touch. Now he has to find a way to get beyond Kyle Becker. Outlets to Kevin Oliveira. Under pressure, goes back to Minicio. Not much of an option. Two-footed challenge there along the touchline. Ottawa still in possession here. It's Bruna. Dances his way away from the pressure. Now Oliveira. Colin Falvey. Ottawa still some good ball movement here. Just need to find that penetrating pass into the penalty area. Falvey. Adonijah Reed. First touch off the head. Bit heavy. Falls to Tony Taylor. Taylor will try one. That one blocked by the hands. And now a free kick coming up for Ottawa here from about 20 yards out, just left of the goal of Alex Timbakis.
Yeah, Carolina not happy about that at all. But when you have your arm raised like that, I mean, if he doesn't touch it, Graham, the ball's probably going to end up 20 yards up and over the crossbar. But all you've done now is given the Ottawa Fury from about 23 yards out a difficult angle, possibly better for a left footer up and over the wall. You've given them a difficult chance now to defend. Carolina has to make sure that they've got enough players in the wall.
Michael Salazar set to come out of this game for Ottawa Fury FC, and Carl Haworth to come in. Salazar not happy about having to come out of this match here in the 56th minute.
Not at all, eh? Very disappointed that he was, 10 minutes into the second half. You know, you think you want to get a little bit more time than that as a forward, Graham, to try and work on your defender, work on your fullback. Unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for him here this afternoon. But the Fury with a glorious opportunity here to get right back into this match.
Christian Portilla looks the favored one to take it here, drills it right into the wall, comes out to Bruna, his shot deflected, comes to Kyle Becker, and he makes no mistake this time to clear it back inside the Ottawa half.
Looks like Harrington's gone down with an injury, Graham. I'm not sure if he was possibly the player in the wall that got hit with that strike, but it wasn't at the best of free kicks, it has to be said. You've really got to make sure from that position you get the ball up and over the wall, and unfortunately just unable to do so. Was it Lomas?
It looks like Marios Lomas, who is down, getting it right in the solar plexus and just trying to catch his breath after taking that free kick from Portilla in the midsection.
Yes. Yeah, that's never a fun position, is it? 23 yards from goal, there's a direct free kick. The boy's probably going to welly it right at you. And if you catch it in the wrong spot, my goodness, it does hurt. Fortunately, it's not -10, it's about +10 here this afternoon, so it won't be as bad as it could have been. Will be a drop ball. Kyle Becker will just knock the ball. Oh, the referee's not happy about that drop ball, and well, that could have been disastrous for the Ottawa Fury there, because you would expect, and Becker was all set to knock the ball back to the goalkeeper. Portilla was having none of it, and a 50-50 ball at that point could have turned into a 2v2 going the other way.
Well, of course, those two know each other from playing in San Francisco together last season. Falvey to Manila. They get inside the Carolina half.
But look at the space Eddie Edward has on this near side. I mean, he's got at least 25 yards before a white shirt's even close to him, Graham. The boy does well to get across there and block it off. Do I? But my goodness, I mean, that narrow midfield four, it's working right now. You're up 1-0, but at some point you would really think that the Ottawa Fury might be able to capitalise on that space that's been given to them down the flanks.
Tony Taylor tries to find an option, gets it to Kevin Oliveira. Nice turn there. Oliveira tries one from distance, takes a one hop. That will miss wide to the right of Alex Tambakis here in the 59th minute.
Yeah, a shot from 30 yards out of goal, Graham. You've got to be a worldie to get the ball beyond the goalkeeper at Tambakis' quality, and that just unfortunately wasn't a worldie and ended up drifting very, very wide of that post. But probably another substitution coming in for Carolina this time, Graham. It looks like it's going to be number 33 coming in for them, Aaron Guillen. We'll try and get you who is being replaced as quickly as we can. Oh, he's put his shirt back on now. He might not be coming on after all, not right away anyway. Well, Coach Clark has to be very pleased with the way the second half's gone. You want to contain the Ottawa Fury, you want to frustrate them a bit. And I think what they've done is, much like in the first half, Graham, they've allowed Ottawa to play the ball, pass the ball easily around the back four. When it gets into central midfield, that bank of four is making it very, very difficult for players like Bruno, Portilla to try and find some space to get it into the attacking third. And I just wonder if the Fury might be looking at making another change at some point, just to bring in some fresh legs. A couple of tired looking lads out there already here this afternoon.
Well, should the 1-0 scoreline hold, don't be surprised to see last year's leading goal scorer come into this game, and Steven DeSantos. It sounds like Due will be the one coming out in place of Aaron Guillen when the substitution is made. Goal kick coming up here for Ottawa Fury FC as we just tick over past the hour mark.
That's been a very well organised performance here so far by Carolina, and as Coach Colin Clark makes his first substitution, as you said, for Due going off and 33 Guillen coming in. You know, as a coach for a team that's down 1-0, and you really haven't gotten an awful lot of goal-mouth action, Graham, in the second half. I think you've maybe got to look at possibly changing up your tactics, possibly changing up your system. There's two big lads in the centre of that Carolina defence, and if you want to fight fire with fire, you're exactly right. You've got to bring on your big lad DeSantos, 6'4" himself, and maybe start pumping high ball after high ball. I know it's not the type of football a lot of people like to watch, but it does become effective at a certain time because it wears down the back four of the opposition.
Well, now while we have a break in play here, head down to the sidelines and join Tyler McDonough. Tyler?
Thank you, Graham. And Colin Clark, the head coach of North Carolina FC, really looking now that they have their lead to slow play down and really take their time and control the pace of this game. Guillen coming on now, and he's going to be really shadowing Adonijah Reed, much bigger than Adonijah Reed as well. So look for that matchup throughout the rest of the game. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that update. And certainly when you look at the stature of some of the players in Ottawa Fury FC, and you know, outside of a guy like Ono Obasi and Steven DeSantos, not a ton of height in this side. And we have talked about that center back pairing of the 6-foot Michael Harrington and the 6'3" Footy Danso, who really haven't come under much pressure so far this afternoon.
I think the one thing over and above the fact that they've got the height, they've got the bulk, Graham, they've got the ability, I think, to read the game very well. And when you see attackers making a run across you, if it's a run that's not going to come to anything or produce anything, just let them go. It's when that ball ends up getting played into a dangerous position, that's when these two seem to know exactly when to switch on, and they've done it to tremendous effect here this afternoon. It's been really difficult for the front three of the Fury to try and get any change out against this back four.
Colin Falvey's header goes into touch for a North Carolina throw just in front of their own bench. Austin Deleuze with the throw finds Marios Lomas. The Dutchman has had a pretty strong performance this afternoon for North Carolina, factoring in on that lone goal.
I think at this stage of the game, Graham, but we're almost midway through the second half at some point. You've got to get a little bit more pressure on this back four of Carolina. You've got basically one player trying to close them down, Taylor in this instance, trying to make sure he does some yeoman work between the two stoppers. But when the ball gets played out wide, there's no one from the Fury actually pushing up to close them down. And it's just, as Tyler mentioned in his update from Colin Clark, he just wants to slow it down. And if you're not getting pressured, that's exactly the type of game Carolina wants you to play.
Christian Portilla looking to close down his man. North Carolina still in possession here. Deleuze pokes it forward, looking for Lomas. One back by Falvey, but now one back, albeit momentarily, by North Carolina. I think that was Graham Smith who had the interception, but into Crapo, and he'll slow things down. Crapo sends that one forward. No one in block there for Ottawa.
I think they just need to get a bit more of a higher press, Graham, right now, because you're just making Carolina's job so easily. They can, if Ottawa continues to play this way, they can see out these final 25 minutes absolutely no bother.
Should mention the available subs for Nikola Popovic in addition to Callum Irving, the backup goalkeeper on the bench, Thomas Mayer-Giguère and Kyle Porter, the two Canadian defenders. Jamar Dixon in the midfield, Steven DeSantos and Gabriel Balbanotti are the other strike force on the bench for Ottawa Fury FC.
Well, that was far better there from Carl Haworth. A good penetrating run in behind. He got support from Eddie Edward. Just unfortunate that the ball back from Haworth to Edward took a deflection and didn't make its way back to the defender, but a little bit better. Lovely switch of play. Good diagonal ball played 45, 50 yards up and over the back four, and unfortunately for Haworth, I think his first touch with the head just took him a little too far away from what he was really intending to do.
Falvey chests that one down. Taylor does the same thing. Couple of good touches there. Falls into the midfield. Kevin Oliveira wins it for Ottawa. Now Sergio Minicio. Chris Manila. Portilla. That one knocked down and intercepted by Aaron Guillen.
Yeah, not happy about that, Carl Haworth or his coach, but when you're coming in from behind on a defender that's got position on you, Graham, and any time you make contact with them, even the slightest coming in from the side, you're going to get that free kick given against you, and that's exactly what happened to Carl there as he tried to challenge for the ball. Almost does well. Lovely first touch.
There's an effort from distance. That one missing wide to the right.
Rather speculative it was, but you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket, Graham, and that's exactly what he thought he was going to do there. Maybe catch the goalkeeper off his line, and he just drifted well wide of that post. I think you're just seeing a little bit of frustration right now by the captain, Colin Falvey, there. When he got that ball, he looked up and there was not one player willing to make a run for him. They were all stagnant, they were all standing still. And all he had to do was just turn the ball back to the goalkeeper and see if we can try something here on the left-hand side. But a little bit of frustration starting to creep in here for the Ottawa Fury. 67 minutes gone. And you just have to hope that something comes of a bit of a spark here to bring this crowd back into the game. Certainly the supporters groups are trying to get things going at the far end, but unfortunately it's just on the park that matters, and it's not working right now for the Fury.
One back inside the Ottawa half by Kyle Becker, and now he's back in possession. Tried to find Lomas, and now Ottawa comes away with it. Cleared back into the Ottawa half. Minicio brings it down for Kevin Oliveira. Oliveira makes some room to run here. That wall of white just dropping off. Good penetrating ball in for Carl Howarth. Howarth delivers this one across the face of goal. That one headed away. Eddie Edward challenges with his man, knocked into touch for an Ottawa throw. Edward into Howarth. Howarth looking to get something going here for Ottawa. Will fall to Kyle Becker. Clearing attempt. Misses, finds Colin Falvey, who pushes it all the way back to Maxime Crépeau under the pressure of the goal scorer, Daniel Rios.
Well, that last little highlight we saw there were Carl Howarth. Again, a good penetrating run in behind the back four. His little chip, though, the problem was there wasn't anybody in a red and black shirt, Graham, willing to break their neck and get in front of a defender. They were all standing still. We saw it as the ball was chipped across. They're just waiting for the ball to come to them instead of attacking it and trying to get on the end of it themselves.
That went over the head of Carl Howarth, able to bring it down. Gets it to the corner flag. Tries to find an option, finds Schroeder Bruna. Bruna under pressure from behind. Whips it across the middle, finds Chris Manila. Pushes it out wide for Minicio in space. Quickly closed down by Becker. Now Oliveira into Reed. Adonijah Reed cuts his way through. Looks for Howard, tries to go back to Reed. That one knocked away. Some good movement there by Ottawa, falls to Oliveira. Outlets to Eddie Edward. Colin Falvey. Portilla. Oliveira. There's a noise from the supporters section in behind. Alex Timbakis really getting rowdy now as they look to cheer Ottawa on to an equalizer here.
That's trouble. That is trouble. Well, the referee's just tried to calm things down, but that was a very, very high boot there, Graham. I think he's going to be lucky if the referee doesn't pull out a yellow card, and it's entirely possible a red comes out as well. It was a bad tackle. He was well up on the thigh there almost.
I think he might get away with a yellow here just for the fact that he was lunging in for the ball.
And that's 100% fine, but when you're going in studs that high, Graham, and a dangerous situation against the player, it does give the official an opportunity to pull out the red. It is yellow in this case, but it probably looked a lot worse than it did. But the lad's on the deck there, he's probably showing the stud marks on his knee and his thigh that he's going up against, and unfortunately for Carolina, he seems to be okay though. He's back up on his feet. Bruna picks up the yellow card, and
I think that was Marcel Canziora, the German, who fortunately got the studs run down his thigh from Gerardo Bruna.
Yeah, and the referee was perfectly placed. I mean, you really couldn't have asked the referee to have any better look at it, Graham. 5 yards away on the proper side of the foul as it took place. Excellent position by the official. You know, we talk about officials an awful lot, and rightly so. Sometimes we do get officials that just don't appear to be calling the game the way you think it should be called, but I think the referee in the middle here this afternoon has had a decent game. He's tried to let the game flow, and when he's needed to make a big decision, he's certainly done so, and done so properly.
Good ball movement now by North Carolina FC as they break into the Ottawa half. Eddie Edward blocks that pass attempt, but Carolina still in possession here. Colin Falvey brings it down, takes a pull, finds Carl Howarth, his pass looking for Bruna off the mark, and now North Carolina again taking over.
He's onside.
Offside flag stays down,
opportunity.
Oh no, it does come up now.
It was a very late flag coming up. I thought initially when the ball was played through, the assistant referee, he started to continue his run back, Graham, and that usually is an indication that it's onside, but then he stopped, the flag went up, and unfortunately for Lomas, he gets called back and he was off to the races.
That one over the head of Tony Taylor. Carl Howarth giving chase, and it's headed back to Alex Tambakis. 73rd minute now here at TD Place. 1-0 North Carolina remain in front on that Daniel Rios goal in the 35th minute. Taylor outlets to Oliveira, one back by Kyle Becker, intercepted by Bruna. Now Oliveira, some room to run here. Adonijah Reed cuts in, finds Tony Taylor. Can he get a turn and shot? Able to turn onto his left foot. That one blocked. Now Kyle Becker trying to shield the ball from Taylor. One back by Minicio. Surveys his options. Finds Oliveira. Back to Minicio. Forced back to Chris Manila. North Carolina able to do a decent job here of cutting off the supply lines. Foul called inside the Carolina half, and now a free kick coming here for Ottawa. Oliveira and Canziora having a conversation with Pierre-Luc Lausier after that foul. Reminder that following today's match, you can head over to the Ottawa Fury FC Facebook page for our post-match show on Facebook Live. We'll hear from Fury FC head coach Nikola Popovic, hear from our man of the match. Carl Howarth able to bring that down there for Ottawa. One back by North Carolina. Bruna gets a foot in there. CFC still in possession. And that one into touch for an Ottawa throw. Eddie Edward to take.
Stephen Miller getting himself ready to come in to defender, so I just wonder if Coach Clark might just be looking at going 5 at the back and just seeing this out. It is number 14, Daniel Rios, we're hearing coming off, so more than likely just go to either a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1, Graham, just to make sure that any pressure the Fury put on in these final 15 minutes are dealt with fairly easily.
Oliveira dispossessed. Now Kyle Becker for North Carolina. Bit heavy on that last touch, and now we'll have that substitution for NCFC. As you mentioned, Stephen Miller set to come into the game. And the goal scorer Daniel Rios will come out. The 22-year-old Mexican, his third of the season, has North Carolina FC positioned right now to claim all 3 points here at TD Place with 15 minutes plus stoppage time remaining.
And if that does become the winner, Graham, then it's certainly a full value for a winner. It was a lovely play inside the box. The unfortunate part for the Fury was they were just caught ball watching, and there was no one picking up the lad Rios at the edge of the box as he was able to get that shot away. And unfortunately for the Fury, that's the one goal that's put them at the disadvantage here right now with 15 minutes left to go in this match plus time added on.
Jordan Bruna breaks into the North Carolina half, but Eddie Edward forced back to Colin Falvey. Portilla. Adonijah Reed. Reed sends this one through, and Carl Howarth had broke free, would have been onside had the ball found him. Bruna. Tony Taylor, he's dispossessed. Now Kyle Becker. Good ball forward, great read by Colin Falvey to step up and maintain possession for Fury FC. Portilla. Now to Oliveira. Wide for Minicio. Adonijah Reed, he's knocked down.
There's a couple of times Graham Manicio's getting that ball on the far side, and his first instinct is he wants to cut back towards his own goal. Take the defender one-on-one, get in behind him. You've got 25-30 yards there worth of space behind him. If you're able to get in there, then you've got a wonderful opportunity of getting the ball into the box. His first instinct seems to be get it back onto my right foot, and I'll take the safe passage back towards the player supporting behind me.
Falvey to Eddie Edward. Cleared away, but North Carolina FC in possession in the Ottawa half. Good win back by Eddie Edward. Colin Falvey. Carl Howarth now. Knocks that one off Austin Deleuze and into touch for an Ottawa throw. 78th minute here at TD Place. Fury FC still trying to find that first goal.
Jamar Dixon looks like he's getting stripped off, ready to come on here this afternoon for these final 12-13 minutes. Just wonder if we're looking at possibly Reid might be the player coming off. He's had he's a smaller lad, Graham, and up against some of these bigger bodies of Carolina, he certainly has taken some punishment here this afternoon. I just wonder if he might be the player coming off and allowing Reid Dixon to push up on that left-hand side. Good work on the far side though, but he's got a chance for a corner kick. We're hearing it is Gerardo Bruna that is going to be coming off for the Ottawa Fury. So Dixon on for Bruna, midfielder for midfielder, but certainly Jamar Dixon would want to get into these final minutes and try and make an impression on this home opener here for the Ottawa Fury. Basically down 1-0. It's not looking good for them here so far, Graham.
There's the delivery right to the penalty spot, looking for Colin Falvey. Ball still up in the air. Bruna wins the header. Falls into the penalty area. Now cleared away. Carl Howarth wins it back for Ottawa. Howarth has some room to run on that right side. That one knocked into touch for an Ottawa throw.
Two white shirts right on him. A third one tucked in behind, Graham. There's no way they're letting Carl Howarth beat them this afternoon.
Well, it's been 285 minutes since Ottawa Fury FC last scored a goal, and that was in the 64th minute of the season opener in Charlotte in that 4-1 loss. And now Jamar Dixon comes into the game here in the 80th minute for Gerardo Bruna.
Lomas up against Falvey. Falvey using all his experience. Again, what a terrific play by Falvey. Just unfortunately not able to keep the ball in play there, but you know, he's such an intelligent player, Colin Falvey, and as he's gotten older, we talked about it, he just seems to be able to, the game slows down for you. We hear it talked at all different sports, Graham. As you get older into your career, the game slows down, and it definitely does become easier for you to read the game. Obviously the physical attributes start to wane as you get older too, but mentally you become a little bit more sharper. You understand the game, you understand what the opposition is trying to do. When you're younger, you're just out there running around trying to do the best you can, but as you get older, it definitely makes it a lot easier to play the game. And we're seeing that obviously with Colin Falvey, such a quality veteran being added to this lineup from Julian de Guzman.
Well, you know what you get from Colin Falvey, the player, but you know, perhaps the most value that he does have to that team, as you mentioned, Gord, is that experience, is that maturity, and with so many young players in this squad, certainly a great value having someone like Falvey in the mix.
You know, if you're going into a battle, he's the type of player that you want at the front of the line, because he's going to take a few of them out before he gets taken out, and that's exactly the type of player you need when things aren't going well for you.
Well, and a great run down that left side. I think that was Canziora.
Great tracking back though by Carl Howarth, wasn't it? I mean, he must have come all of 75, 80 yards from his wide right position here to get into that defensive posture, 5 yards from the byline. Does a good job, just sticks with him. At this point, he's 5 yards behind Graham, and he just keeps going and keeps going. He gets that ball deflected out for a corner kick. It's a good play by Carl Howarth, but unfortunately, if you're an Ottawa Fury fan, you want to see Howarth 100 yards up the park and not standing by his own corner flag.
Well, and it looks as though Gabriel Balbinotti will be the third and final sub on the afternoon for Ottawa Fury FC as that one goes through.
There was contact in there as well. The Carolina player thought he was taken down rugby tackle style almost, Graham, as that ball makes its way all the way out. But as it gets whipped across, it's a terrific ball. The goalkeeper can't come from it. And there is contact there. It does look as if there was a clash in the middle of that 6-yard box, but the referee decides to let play go on, and no free kick, well, certainly no penalty was given, as it certainly would have been inside the box.
North Carolina FC win back possession, but that pass goes awry and into touch for an Ottawa throw right at midfield. Minicio to Dixon. Official plays advantage there after that foul by Minicio. And it's interesting, Gord, because at parts of this game, we've seen some very direct football from NCFC, but then at times when they really want to turn it on and move that ball around, there's been some clinical passing from North Carolina.
And I think that's what defines a coach like Colin Clark, because he's not stuck into one system. He's not stuck into, I'm going to stick with it, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to make sure everybody does what they're supposed to do. If things change, and that's what in-game management's all about, if you see things aren't working for you, the way you've set your team up, you set them out in a 4-4-2, okay, great, we're going to try and stifle the opposition in central midfield, we're going to try and do this, we're going to try and do that. If it's not working, you've got to be able to make a decision quickly that allows the players themselves to make that change, read that, and get it cleared away. Unfortunately, Carolina got that one cleared away from a free kick, and it will be a nice little jinky run across the face of the 18-yard box, and in does come, as you said, Balbinotti now.
That was a great run by Adonijah Reed and a hard challenge there. And he'll have a free kick set up here from about 25 plus yards out. And now we'll see that third and final sub for Ottawa Fury FC, Gabriel Balbinotti coming in, replacing Tony Taylor here. And we'll see who wins the debate as to who's going to take this free kick. I think Oliveira won out over Carl Howarth.
Well, that's a good, 20, 28, 30 yards almost, Graham, from goal, you would think. 27 maybe. He's certainly got to get it up and down quickly if he can.
Kevin Oliveira with the delivery at the low off the goalpost.
I'm not sure if the goalkeeper got a touch on that. He must have got a touch on that. A terrific save going across to his left, Graham. A wonderful free kick, it really was. The goalkeeper got just enough on it there to nudge it onto the post.
Yeah, it touches a piece of his forearm, but now a corner for Ottawa. Portilla with the delivery and blow that one down as there's some contact in the 6-yard box, so the official will have a conversation with everybody.
I think that was Reed at the back post there, and there's about 4 feet difference between him and the goalkeeper.
Fantastic effort from Kevin Oliveira.
And just as fantastic a save as well, Graham, from the goalkeeper.
Delivered to the near post, they tied the game! What a delivery from Christian Portilla in the 86th minute, and we're level at 1.
Dear, oh dear, how, and my goodness, can that happen? You've got to have better defending at the front post on a corner kick. A wonderful ball whipped into that dangerous area. And it just appeared to be a complete mix-up between the full-back and the goalkeeper. There's all sorts of bodies in that front area. Well, the goalkeeper actually palms it in his own goal, and there's no Fury. There's no Fury player involved at all. He goes in behind his own player. And my goodness, what a turnaround here. 5 minutes left to go. It's 1-1 here this afternoon.
Well, we'll see how they award this one, but for now, Christian Portilla's delivery on the corner in at the near post, and we are 1-1 as we tick now over into the 87th minute here at TD Place. Game on this afternoon, and we'll head down to Tyler McDonald. Tyler?
Well, thank you very much. It almost seemed that a Kevin Oliveira free kick gave some hope to Ottawa Fury FC, and now they're making sure they keep their heads and push forward. They want to try and get 3 points out of this contest. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. And this crowd that has been lively for much of this afternoon, especially in behind the goal. There's a shot from Carl Howard, deflected but stopped by Tambakis. Well, they're certainly alive and jumping now.
Well, you know, when you make changes, Graham, you make changes for a purpose and for a reason. They took 2 forwards off, they brought 2 forwards on, and that's made such a huge difference to the attacking prowess of the Ottawa Fury. Another substitution coming in. It's number 10, Kyle Becker, now coming off. Number 7, Iwalo, has come in for Carolina, but the Ottawa Fury now with all the momentum, all the flow going towards that Carolina goal. And as much as we'd probably like to give it to Portilla, Graham, I think that will have to go down as an own goal, because it wasn't going in on its own until the goalkeeper palmed the ball into his own net. And unfortunately for the lad who'd made a wonderful save seconds earlier off of the free kick, he has given the Fury this light at the end of the tunnel. And 1-1 scoreline with 2.5 minutes left to go of the 90.
Well, looking at the official stats sheet that's powered by Opta, and it has been awarded as an own goal to Alex Tambakis. And you know what, I feel bad for the guy, because he's going to get the own goal counted against him, but really he had, for sure it was Footy Danso. I think it might have also been Michael Harrington in there, almost interfering with him to make a save, but still a very dangerous and precise delivery from Christian Portilla on that corner, and that's why we are knotted at 1 apiece.
Well, at that front post area, it was an absolute stramash, Graham. There was about 8 bodies in that area, from the beginning of the 6-yard box to the middle of the goal and the edge of the 6-yard box away from goal. And my goodness, all it took was a little bit of magic there from Portilla. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to whip that ball into the front post area. He got lucky in a sense that the goalkeeper palmed it in. You do, as you said, feel a little bit for the lad based on what he did seconds earlier, but that's not going to bother the Ottawa Fury here at all. They right now are minutes away from picking up the first USL point of the 2018 season. And who knows, Graham, we may have some late game drama. We always seem to do here at TD Place, one way or the other, for or against. But
that goal was Ottawa's first goal in 292 minutes, so happy to break that scoreless drought.
Oh, certainly a relief, that's for sure. I mean, you've got Cincinnati coming in here next week, a very tough team as well. They've got 2 wins, a loss and a tie on the season themselves, and it's going to be a tough matchup again next week. But if you're able to come out of this match with something in your pocket, Graham, you're at least building. All week at practice, you're able to build on the positives instead of another loss, and that's exactly what Coach Popovich in these final couple of minutes will be hoping for, if he can pick up even more than the 1 point he's got so far.
Portilla to Colin Falvey just inside the Ottawa half. Now Chris Manila. Hearing that we'll have a minimum of 3 minutes of additional time in this match. Carl Howarth. Dispossessed there. This one cleared away. First to it there was Colin Falvey. Howarth had slipped, so he couldn't chase that one down. And that should be shepherded out.
And listen, let's not discount the substitutions that have been made by Popovich. Yes, you're making them for that reason, that you're trying to provide a little bit of a spark. But Carl Haworth has come in here in these final 25, well actually he came on with 50. He came on with 55 minutes gone, that's right. It was a very early substitution in the second half. And I think he's done well in this wide right position. He's ran at the defender, he's tried to get in behind the back four, caused them problems that they really weren't doing much of in the first half. And that's exactly what he was brought on here to do this afternoon. And there was none more delighted as he pulled away from that front post area when that ball went in the back of the net. Carl Howard sprinting out towards the corner taker, Portilla.
Tambakis' delivery able to be kept in nicely by Austin Deleuze. That certainly looked bound for the NCFC bench. Alvy's clearance out for a North Carolina throw. We'll head down to the sidelines once again and join Tyler McDonald, who has an update for us. Tyler?
Thank you very much. Just last final messages from each coach is North Carolina, keep the passes short, try to come out with this with a draw in this match for Nikolai Popovich and Ottawa Fury FC. It's put lots of pressure on, try to attack the ball and try to get a last-minute winner. Back to you guys.
Manila brings that one down to Kevin Oliveira. As we get deeper into stoppage time here.
Again, Graham, he wants to turn back. 40 yards worth of open field there. If he just continues, you know, certainly obviously his right foot is more comfortable, but at some point you've just got to take what you've been given, and when you're given that wide flank all the way down the left side, you've got to take advantage of it. And unfortunately, this afternoon the lad's just cut in far too much for me. He just hasn't allowed the play to continue naturally down the wide flanks.
Oliveira again with some room to run here. His way to Adonijah Reed, able to keep it in play and then win Ottawa a throw. Portilla, or rather make that Oliveira, in for Reed. No, he's brought down and quickly waved off by Pierre-Luc Lausier. Falls to Carl Howarth. Howarth can't get another touch on it. Still battling to win it here. Eddie Edward now in a foot race. And there's the final whistle to bring to conclusion the home opener. As you mentioned, Gord, it's dramatic fashion. It always seems to happen this way at TD Place, and especially against North Carolina FC. Still yet to find victory at TD Place. 1-1 the final here this afternoon at TD Place. Time for a quick break. We'll come back to wrap things up before we get to our post-game show. Stay tuned. We'll be back to close things out from TD Place following a 1-1 draw between North Carolina FC and Ottawa Fury FC.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
Canadian, we employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Hey, Impreza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep.
Welcome back to TD Place. The final score here this afternoon from the Ottawa Fury FC home opener, 1-1 against North Carolina FC. And Gord, you know, we talked about it at halftime, and really it was a 1-0 game for North Carolina. Ottawa looked very calm and composed in that first half, and something that just came out of nothing. And there were some breakdowns in that second half, but really kind of Carl Howarth comes into the game, Jamar Dixon came into the game, and you saw that energy. You could call it desperation if you like, in that last kind of 15 minutes from Ottawa, where the chances really started coming before we saw that equalizer. But your overall thoughts on the 90 minutes this afternoon?
Well, I thought up until the goal was scored by Carolina, Ottawa had things under control. They weren't really giving up too much from open play behind them. Everything was kept in front of them. Set plays, certainly Carolina were dangerous, but I think when Carolina went ahead 1-0, it kind of shook the Fury up a little bit. It took them a while to get going. I don't know what was said at half time. But when you come out and make a substitution 10 minutes into the second half, something's not been working from the conversation you've had. He made that change. Carl Haworth came on. Bundle of energy. He did provide that down this right flank, and it made a big difference, I thought. I think it just forced Carolina to be a little bit more honest. Pushed them back 5-10 yards towards their 18-yard box, and it made a difference. But overall, I think 1-1's is possibly the right result.
And we'll now have a look at our man of the match, brought to you by the Ottawa Citizen. And, you know, there was certainly a host of players that you could select from, but how do you not go from the guy who wore the captain's armband this afternoon, Colin Falvey? He was involved in so much and really limited anything from North Carolina, especially in that second half, really closed things down.
He's a rock. He's an absolute rock at the back, and no matter who he's playing with beside him, he makes them better. He's a leader. He's a leader of men. He's a leader of players, and that's exactly why he was brought back in here, for his experience not only on the park but in the dressing room as well. But it's his performance here this afternoon on the park that's given us a man of the match performance.
Yeah, and we'll before we get to our final stats, you know, we're talking with Colin before the game, and he was talking about just how he sees the game now, and just, you know, the smarter player that he is, and he wishes he was that way when he was younger. But you talk about, you know, him being a rock, the value that he will have to this team going forward this season, I don't think will be known until the season progresses more, and we see these younger players really start to evolve under his leadership. Not so much on the field, but what you're seeing at training and in the locker room.
And that's why Julian de Guzman brought him back. He knew what he was getting, not only as a player, but it's the intangibles, the off the field, the during your training, these type of things that the youngsters are looking at it saying, if an old man like Falvey can do it, I'm sure as heck going to do it as well. And
you better hope he doesn't listen to this
full
after.
value to Colin for his performance here this afternoon as our man of the match.
All right, let's have a look at our full-time stats brought to you by Rico and Gord. For really the entire course of this game, possession was favored for Ottawa Fury FC. I think the lowest point was about 55%. The highest was about 62-63. It ends 60-40 in favor of Ottawa. But the stat that I think they're going to like the most, outside of the fact that they got this to 1-1, is the shots. 9 shots, albeit just 2 of those 9 on target, but that they were generating those opportunities. And sure, it came in the last 15. Most of it came in the last 15 minutes. But we talked about earlier in the broadcast about how much this team has conceded in those last 20-25 minutes of a match, but they were taking the game to North Carolina here this afternoon.
And I think that's exactly what the possession shows. Once Carolina got the lead, and early in the second half, we heard Tyler commenting that you sort of heard what Colin Clark was saying. He did realise that Carolina were going to take a 5 yards back, play a little bit deeper, and try to make sure that they just stifled the Ottawa Fury in central midfield. And they did that for a very, very long period of the game. Late drama once again at TD Place, Graham, and the Fury came out with their first point of 2018 and full value for it. I thought over the course of the period that score line between both teams was probably correct.
Certainly happy to get that point. Certainly happy to break the scoreless drought at 292 minutes. So lots of positives there. Now the focus is going to be on that next match, and it's going to be a special one here because it's the return the first ever captain in club history, certainly one of the most beloved players for Ottawa Fury FC in Richie Ryan and FC Cincinnati. So another tough opposition coming up here at TD Place next Saturday, followed by the annual school day game on the 2nd of May. That's a 10:30 a.m. kickoff. Note the start time against New York Red Bulls 2. They'll take on Penn FC, which will see 4 former Fury players return, including the likes of Mario Eustachiou and Romuald Pezer on the 7th of May. And then May the 12th, Ottawa Fury FC host Atlanta United 2 at 2 o'clock. But Gord, just a quick thought on this next match against FC Cincinnati.
Well, I'm sure a lot of us in the media who had a really good relationship with Richie Ryan. He was one of the most accessible players that you could ask for as a captain and as a player. When he was available for interview, he was always there. When you needed him for a comment, he was always there. And he was a type of player off the field, the same that we're getting from Colin Falvey now. The experience we have from Richie Ryan on and off the field. Absolutely tremendous lad, tremendous player, and we hope he doesn't do the business next week for Cincinnati when he comes in here, but full value to him, and I'm sure he'll come in and he'll put on a show. He'll want to do well in front of the Ottawa fans, and above all else, try to win 3 points for his team.
We'll talk more about today's match. We'll talk more about next weekend's match. We'll also hear from Ottawa Fury FC head coach Nikola Popovic. In our post-match show, go over to the Ottawa Fury FC Facebook page. as our Facebook Live post-game show will start momentarily. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and thanks to Tyler McDonald, Gordon Smith, our producer Mike Sutherland, and the rest of the crew. I'm Graham Ivory. This has been Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League may not be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.